All right, so our boy responded to, I mean, at last Epoch basically put something out, like kind of their future roadmap and stuff like this. I think he's gonna hit on. So I mean, I like it. Like I said, server issues have been tough. I'm still though definitely enjoying the game, and everybody that I know that's been playing it is still playing it a lot. So I think they're in for a good spot, and I think kind of the at least I didn't read the entire like what their plans are for 1.1 and everything. I think he's gonna get into it a little bit more here, but I think they released a roadmap, and from what I've heard, it's been pretty positive reviews on what he said. So I don't know. Let's see.
As it currently stands, Last Epoch has mixed reviews on Steam. There's some people that are very upset about the pretty rough launch, if we're being honest, and then there are people that believe
I will also say, by the way, the launch was rough, and it's rightfully so to be criticized because even though it's a smaller company, that happening on your 1.0 launch is pretty tough. But I think they've handled it pretty well. It seems like it wasn't just a we need to buy servers problem. It seemed like it was more of like an actual issue. I don't know. I'm not a dev, so I can't really like talk about that stuff. But it seems like it wasn't just like a agreed. Oh, we need to buy servers. They've got it pretty much. I played yesterday or the day before, and I was getting in and out of zones really easy. So I think they fixed like the big bugs. But obviously, it's kind of about what their future is planned.
it is a good ARPG driven from an indie company with good practices towards the consumer. So you end up with mixed reviews depending upon which side of the spectrum you end up falling on. Well, Last Epoch themselves, in fact, notably here, Judd Cobbler, the founder and game director, actually posted this only 40 minutes ago on Twitter.
Yeah, I saw this. This was I mean I he's obviously recording these ahead of time. I saw this. I didn't really read too much into it. I think I read like the first paragraph or something, but I think there's a roadmap and everything like that.
And this is a breakdown and response upon the current situation with Last Epoch. They opened by mentioning Last Epoch had 265,000 players online at one time. So this is your concurrent app.
And that's crazy. Like I know that like, 265, you hear like AAA titles, 265,000 is a lot, but like an ARPG on launch, I know it's not launch, like it was just 1.0, it's been early access for 5 years, yada yada. 265K, like that's crazy. Like that's respect. That was a lot of eyes on it. I think it was more than even they were expecting.
At the second online, which was number 39 highest concurrent user count recorded on Steam literally ever.
Holy.
They continue to say basically that they're sorry about the server loads and thank you for bearing with them, and they're holding
The devs were super communicative through the process as well. I give them credit for that. Like they constantly were pinging at everyone in Discord every time there was any kind of update. They had their own forum that they updated. I think like every 2 to 4 hours, unless it was overnights and stuff like that. Like I respect how much they were actually in and out on Reddit in the game talking to people. Like it, I do respect it. I think for damage control, what you could have done, it was the best damage control that like we've seen out of pretty much like any gaming company in a long time.
steady now above 200,000 players and made improvements each day to support the demand.
And people still stuck around. They are still over 200K.
And they're going to continue to address any issues that cropped up. And then they start to break down about what is incoming. Now, I can
Here we go.
confirm I've been playing Last Epoch, obviously, every single day on the live stream, and we will be again today if you want. That's in the description. But as of the last yesterday, the connection does seem to finally be improved while still under significant server load. I guess a bit of what I had heard, and I think they're going to get into this here, but a bit of what I had heard about this wasn't so much a server-related issue as there was a software issue that did not arise until the mass flow of people come up that they
See, that's what I figured. I mean, he probably has a couple more ins. Obviously, I don't think they're like a really like super out there studio, but he's interviewed the devs and stuff on the podcast. I think it was with Rax or maybe it was somebody else, but so I mean, he definitely like talks to those people and stuff. So I'm glad it was just not a oh we need to buy more servers, or else that would change my perspective. I think a little bit.
they weren't aware of. So I know a lot of people are saying, well, just buy more servers. I guess they had the servers. There was an API problem or something. I'm not a dev. I couldn't tell you. I'm sure there'll be plenty of devs in the YouTube comments down below that will talk about what's going on that might know. So they do mention there's an incoming hotfix in post 1.0 patch. This is actually going to be bug fixing and quality of life patch. This is important.
That's massive. That's big to already have a couple quality of life things that you're hearing from the community and that they're jumping on right away. I wonder if they needed to add more stash tabs, or if they needed like a place for like gems and stuff, like how long that would take for them to put out. right? Because there's other studios that seems for that kind of stuff like they need like 6, 9 months, things like that. Like I would just be curious to see how long it would take for these guys.
Important, in my opinion. There are significant bugs in the moment that at least annoy me. If I'll speak for myself personally, I'm playing a hammered in paladin. I'm throwing a bunch of hammers that spiral around me, and very often these hammers hit literally nothing in the air and just disappear. There's one boss that I had to try 5 times because if you fight them anywhere in the top half of the arena, you literally can't damage him with hammers. So I had to fight them in the bottom half of the arena, which half the time is covered with AoE damage. So I'm looking forward to these bug fixes. This next paragraph is here, basically them responding again to the server issue.
I just want to go back like when he talked about the your abilities and whatnot. Combat for me personally, Warlock build has felt fine. I know before 1.0, like when I played my rogue class, there definitely were times where like you're hitting but you're not, and you're not hitting but you are hitting. Like I do know that was a bit of a problem before. I don't know how you guys like feel about that currently. It's felt pretty good for me. Kind of feels fine. Yeah, I mean, like so. I think the combat took a big step in the right direction. I'm sure they still have problems. I mean, I think you said he was going like a paladin build. I haven't played that. Don't know. Um, but yeah, I mean, abilities are one I have felt a lot better than they did pre 1.0, at least for me.
They said they're holding solid above the 200K mark. They're improving their loading times. There was a big complaint, and it was a very valid complaint about loading times taking forever in transitioning from zone to zone. And I'm not just talking about connection issues, but the actual time it takes to load.
They were crazy with that. Yeah, like the loading from zone to zone was nuts. I do also think for a quality of life thing, and it's not going to be out right now, but I think in the future they're going to get rid of some zones. Like there were just a couple areas that like you had to go to for strictly nothing but a side quest, and it's like I I think they will like tune down on that eventually, but I don't think it's anywhere now. That's kind of like way down the road type of stuff, but yeah, I mean, as long as they fix that, like loading in between zones, that was your biggest problem. I think. I don't think anybody's biggest problem with the game was anything else other than we need more than just monoliths at the end of Endgame, and understandable. And I think they have something for that.
working on this improvement as well. They're working on continuing to improve things like the social systems, scene to scene transition time, in game chat.
Oh, the social systems. I will say, I heard a lot of people talking about the like if you were partying up and stuff. Obviously, we only did it once for final boss fight because no physical resistance. But I mean, like I heard people that issue that we kind of had is like, oh, I see you, you don't see me. I see you, you don't see me. Like that kind of situation. I heard that happened for a lot of people, and like there were people that were, this game definitely incentivizes to play with friends. It doesn't require, which I like, but definitely incentivizes. And I'm assuming with like the server issues, playing with your friends was probably not the best experience.
That is more stable, etc. This is just sort of more, hey, we're working on fixing things and making sure it's more stable. The next portion is them talking about they're going to be working on translations, typos, etc. And they're continuing to work on UI error fixes.
Yo, figure out why the last boss doesn't have the percentage. I need that. I need that figured out. If I have to do that campaign again, there's no skip campaign option for like first season or whatever, and I don't see her a percentage on my jizz or whatever that last boss's name is. I'm gonna say something.
Etc. Now, this is the real important part here because we all know server issues can't last forever. They were going to have to fix them. Obviously, they're going to do bug fixes
Right,
and they're
they
going to
get
focus
taken
on
care
making
of.
the game playable. Like, that's the obvious part. This part here is the future content. Now, I had them on my podcast where they announced, the dev here, that they were going to be releasing Pinnacle boss content. We're going to talk about this here in a second because they say for 1.1, they're bringing on some Pinnacle content, which is
That's actually crazy. If they're actually going to bring Pinnacle boss content in 1.1, I mean, we were doing a little bit of talking, and we think 1.1 is maybe like a month and stuff like that. Like that's kind of crazy. Um, Obviously, it sounds like they're gonna make sure that they want to clean things up and whatnot. But even if it's in the second part of a 1.1, you're adding Pinnacle bosses. That's it took Diablo like 3, 4 months. That's crazy. Good shit.
Some of the complaints that currently I'm seeing about the game's in-game state is there's no like extreme boss pinnacle challenge, like Lilith and Diablo, like the Ubers in PoE, for instance. And there's some, the more hardcore ARPG players want to have these sort of chase goals outside of just grinding your power and your corruption that are incremental. You want these one big here I go 1v1 versus the boss type of moment. So here's future content plans. Excited to share the site.
We've talked about this a little bit before. I'm not a bossing fan. I can't handle mechanics. I just want to go in and I want to get swarmed by 300 mobs and I want to take them all out, and I don't really want to do bossing. But I do like the concept of it should be there as an option, and there should definitely be a wide pinnacle boss concept, because that's just, I think I'm in the minority for that. I think the majority of ARPG players want to fight pinnacle and uber versions of bosses. I think I'm just in the minority for that. But as long as you don't make it a requirement and you just kind of make it, have it out there for either better gear, maybe maybe an extra blessing or two and stuff like that in there with them. Great. It's a good idea.
Cycle plans we have, and the next major cycle patch 1.1. So that's coming this 1.1 patch here. The content coming for 1.1 is designed specifically in two parts. The first is focusing on and committing time to act on players' feedback. We are wholly committed to making it the best ARPG in the genre, and listening to our amazing community is a big part of that.
So I mean, this is just PR, right? Like, you say this stuff. I sometimes put my faith in a little too many times in different people, but I do think that these guys are going to be massive on community feedback. Within reason, things that the minority are complaining about, if it's not that deep, don't do anything. But I feel like if there's a big shift in majority feeling, a certain way about a certain boss being added to the game, or a seasonal mechanic, like, I think they would never be like Diablo and say like, oh, seasonal mechanics will strictly be seasonal and we will never keep them around. I think they would be more along the lines of PoE, that if there's some kind of seasonal mechanic and the community really likes it and wants it to be a permanent part, I think they would somehow find a way to like tweak it in there. It might not be eventually, but it might be another season later that it would kind of be in there permanently, which is great. Community feedback's what you want, and if you listen to your community and you have a good community in general, your game will last.
In addition, throughout the 1.0 cycle, we intend to release quality of life and bug fixes patches regularly. So they're saying new content's coming, but we're still going to be doing bug fixes, etc. first. Secondly, as you all may know, we're going to have a heavy emphasis on expanding in-game content now that we've released 1.0. In my opinion, this right here is the correct move. In my review, I said I thought the game was quite good, but I think that the in-game could have some improvements. I'm not hating on it. It's just how I feel about the game, honestly. I still feel this.
No, it had a good amount of content for an initial 1.0 launch. There's nothing wrong with coming, right off the bat with not having any pinnacle bosses or uber bosses. It's fine. Have an established roadmap, have that stuff available very quickly, and it sounds like if that's going to be on the back end of 1.1, that's very quickly, and that's good. And you're cool. You're good.
This way. So they say for future patches, we have plans to expand the monolith, bring great new itemization options, add more boss content, class and balance updates, campaign.
My personal opinion too is I think their itemization and stuff is great. I think their itemization, the way that they do crafting, I think it's all great. So the fact that they're even still sitting here like wanting more new itemization and stuff, like, they're a lot of times you can get very stuck in the mindset of, oh, this works now, so it's going to work forever, and you start putting projects that maybe should be like a medium kind of timeline into like a long timeline where you'll kind of push it back and you'll think, we don't really need to do much with it. But if they're already sitting here like, oh, we need to add more items, like, again, that's a great space to be at. And of course, more boss content, class and balance updates, like that. This stuff's all kind of just kind of a given for the ARPG as well.
Content, etc. For 1.1, we'll specifically be focusing on bringing some pinnacle content or very hard fights that will give you challenges to aspire to. We'll be sharing more on this and what's to come in 1.0 in the not distant future. So here we are, less than a week basically into the launch of this game, and we have announcements talking about campaign content, boss content, class and balance updates, new itemization, expanding the in-game monolith system. So we have a significant amount of announcements here coming into the in-game. It's worth emphasizing that EHG has a strong focus to listening onto the community. It's where our team came from. We want to hear from you to see in the future. They mentioned this also. I asked them about this in my podcast. They started as a Kickstarter, which originally started as a Reddit post. So They started from the forums and they're listening to where they started from is sort of what they're saying basically here with this last paragraph. So now we
I
get
am always surprised. Like, I know obviously indie companies are going to be a lot more out there on the socials than your AAA because you're a little more human. You're not as much corporate. I mean, they are almost on every thread in Last Epoch that I look at, which is crazy. Like, I don't spend a whole lot of time on there. Like, I don't want to make it sound like I'm sitting there digging through Last Epoch Reddit because I'm really not. But almost every single like top recent post that I see that comes up, and like a dev is commenting, and then it's not just that, right? Because them commenting that doesn't really matter. Any dev of a game can go and comment and look good on there, but like they say things and the community is generally happy. Like whatever they say, they come back with something positive, or they say we hear you. That's a plan for X, Y, and Z. Like I don't know. It's just it's pretty crazy to see that they're like, this good. It just feels a little too good to be true, and that's why I'm trying not to get like super excited and be like, oh, Last Epoch's gonna be the best. Like it's just because like man, like I don't know, Diablo's just kind of like broken me that like I hear these things, I'm like, all right, like I'll believe it when I see it, but I do want to like this company has no reason for me to do that to them. Like it's like you know what, they've only shown me improvements and listening to community feedback. So until they do it, I'm gonna sit there and hype them up.
get to the part where they're kind of responding to the reviews and the sentiment and sort of the launch, clusterfuck that really basically happened here. So they say they're continuing to receive high praise about the game itself. Steam reviews and sentiment, however, took a heavy hit due to the initial turbulence of online launch. This is fair. Now, the first day didn't really care that much. I was like, it's the first day, the second day, and the third day, and the fourth day.
Right. He's probably going to say, like, by then he was getting frustrated. This is exactly how I felt. I think this is how the majority of ARPG players, felt about this. If this wasn't your first, like, ARPG 1.0 or, like, a launch, no day one launch ever works for almost any game, not even just ARPG players. So, like, it was okay. But when the game launched on, Wednesday and it was Saturday and we were still having these problems, it's like, dude, like, come on, like I do feel as though they needed calling out for that, but I don't call them out to like a super like negative extent because they were so communicative. And you know what, they randomly added an offline mode. I know that's probably not hard to do if you're like a dev and stuff like that, but it was taken care of, so I'm happy. 6 days later they're all fuming. Yeah, exactly, and that's justifiable. Like I think even they look at that and they know that. And as long as they can recognize it, great.
Is when it started to get a little bit more annoying.
And it clearly seems to be their like number one priority for sure.
And those reviews were becoming more and more fair. People that complained
Wasted
within
8
the
days
first
of
couple
PTO.
hours
Oh,
was harder to take their
8
reviews
hours.
seriously, but
Sorry.
the people that complained after a few days, those are some very real reviews that you can't tell people that can't connect to a game with their friends after days of it being down on an online game, even though offline mode's available. It's true. I played offline mode also during this time. You can't really tell them that their reviews aren't accurate reviews. So people that left negative reviews have every right.
Yeah, I mean they're justified. You know what I mean? These weren't people. It wasn't like the D4 spam and the Overwatch 2 spam. And like, I'm sure there's plenty of other games that I've got review bomb that I just like haven't said, and unfortunately the ones I'm just familiar with are Blizzard. Yikes. But like the negative feedback and the reason it was being of mixed reviews was totally fair. You know what I mean? And they obviously seem to they agree, which is good. That being on the same page, and I mean that's massive.
Right to do so because the servers were in fact down. But now what they have to do is they have to commit to regaining that trust by making improvements to our backend infrastructure for this amount of load and providing a great experience for online play. Basically, they are saying that we got bad reviews, we took a hit, but we're going to have to pull a no man's sky here and prove that we can make a good game, continue to get the connection better and better. It's fine nowadays, but this is 6 days after the launch here, and try to earn back some of those people that left because they couldn't play the game or left a negative review and make them willing to change it to a positive review. They're going to have to earn that sentiment back. So they say they take time to read the reviews and feedback on Steam, socials, and forums, and they take swift action to improve the areas that players are.
They're really good on socials too. Like it's not just their Reddit and like Discord and stuff like that. Like anytime it seems like that I like tweet about the game or something like that, you might not get like a comment or whatnot, but like they like it. Like they're always like, I respect this a lot. I think this speaks volume to the devs and just like the company as like a mindset. obviously everybody's a corporate scumbag to some extent, and I'm sure eventually Last Epoch's going to come out with some crazy microtransaction, and we're going to farm that for content and be like, oh, this is ridiculous. But at the end of the day, like their core foundationals, and I mean everything just seems set up like, I mean, they've got it set out for success right now. Their foundation is perfect. It's just a matter of execution and longevity.
Are dissatisfied with. They know that seeing our Steam reviews lower than ever has been concerning to players who were looking forward to the future of Last Epoch. Yeah, part of this for me is I'll be honest, I have a split thing about this. I was bummed out to see the negative reviews, even though you can't really blame people for leaving negative reviews, because I was hoping that a game with a $35 price tag built off of the back of a Kickstarter from a Reddit post that's an indie game company in the ARPG genre would be able to sort of prove that you can make a great game with a great launch at a fair price tag with no having to purchase microtransactions or anything like that. Yes, there's cosmetics in the game, but to be honest, they look terrible. And the
Oh my
in-game
god.
cosmetics
I am so glad I'm not the only one, man. I'm so glad I'm not the only. I actually really was like I had money in Steam. I was like, you know what? Like let me see what's on Last Epoch, and I had the money already in Steam, dude. Like I was like, just give me something like a $5 ability thing, a $5 just cosmetic pet, like $20 like fire skin, like with the whole transmog. Like I was so down, and I was just like, we're gonna hold out, boys. But that's okay. Like if that's one of my problems with the game, I'm cool with that.
of the
But
towards the consumer.
oh shit. But I do think honestly that they did do a good job with everything else on there. The microtransactions obviously are meh, but it
Reviews
is
do
what it
actually
is.
matter when it comes to influencing this game.
I think what he was talking about earlier with like it being $35 showed that it's still a good game. Like this right here already looks better than sorry, looks better than the AAA title that came out in June. You know what I mean? Like that's crazy. I think they still prove that point regardless of how launch went or even how the next couple patches go. I think they still show that it is absolutely possible even if all of a sudden shit started to go south at 11th hour games, and the point is still proven in my opinion.
Game. So I think they're kind of addressing that, and they're saying that for those players who are concerned, like, well, you guys took a big hit here. Like, is this going to affect the game? They're saying no. We want to assure you that the team has been committed to making a game you can enjoy and expect updates for years to come. We've seen the passion reflected back at us in the community this past week, and it's bolstered our resolve to that goal even further. Last Epoch is here to stay. So that's sort of how they respond to the situation, more or less saying they're doing their best to get everything up and running. It should be up and running now with 200,000 plus players. There should be no issues. They fixed whatever issue was going on in the back end. Again, I think it was some kind of software issue is what I had heard. It wasn't necessarily the servers. There's some kind of API or something. Again, I'm not a dev. I don't know. I'm just through the grapevine. That's what I had heard. And so they fixed whatever unforeseen issue that there had been, and now it's supposed to be good. They've added gamepad support, I guess, if you care about that. But there was already controller support, etc. So this is sort of their response to this. These reviews are not going to affect the future of the game. They've announced the in-game content of expanding monoliths, new itemization, pinnacle bosses, more campaign content, etc. And they're announcing this only 6 days after the release of the game. So that is encouraging to see the content coming, but also the reviews that are from people that weren't able to actually play the game online are fair. Can't argue against them, unfortunately. And then it's just a little bit of a bummer that it wasn't a home run like I think a lot of people were hoping for. But they have a response.
It wasn't a home run. It was a ground rule double. The ball bounced on the infield and we were all like, shit, this sucks. But it still went over. So like we're good. They're gonna switch from thumbs down to thumbs up for me. I think they should earn a thumbs down from a thumbs up to anybody that is, I don't want to say like a veteran gamer and kind of like shit on casuals, but like people that, I don't know, they have a little more understanding for the gaming world. Like I'm 100% with you. Like most people, and because again, the frustrations were valid, but a lot of the frustrations were fixed and or recognized and are actively being worked on allegedly. So, it's cool.
That's their response. You're welcome to leave your comments on how you feel down below. I read my YouTube comments as well. So this one's kind of
So
melancholic
do
for me.
I.
I had wished this had been an overwhelmingly amazing launch, just because of the landscape of gaming in the moment. You get games like Helldiver that are great games, you know, and I kind of like to see a win for the non-AAAs when they happen. But issues do arise. Anyway, that's their response. I'll see you on the guys on the live stream as I'm going live now. All right, cheers.
I love him, man. That's a W video. That's a W video. Okay, wrong. They deserve the thumbs down. Yeah, exactly. We'll link it to you guys there. Um, I love that he immediately goes to grind right after. The rough launch didn't deter me since I've actually been able to play. I've been having a lot of fun with it. I think this is how a lot of people feel. Honestly, I just appreciate the communication. This is what like we are used to as gamers now at this point, right? Is like no communication from these companies, and it's like it was not always like that. You know what I mean? We as a market still, in some way, dictate how it goes. And I guarantee you, if people stop going down the AAA route and they start going down the indie route, we're gonna see a lot more. The indie community is already growing just ridiculously, like ridiculously fast, and I think it's only gonna continue to grow if games like this keep having success. I'm about to have a second character to 70. That's crazy, man. Like, it's been 6 days, and it wasn't even like oh, I ditched my build, like I didn't like it, yeah, it's crazy. The level of communication from the developers have continued to have is mind blowing. I agree. A team like this deserves our support as ARPG fans. Truly incredible. They deserve all of our support until they blow it. 100%. I agree. They haven't even disregarding the launch. Everything else, I'm behind them. I played yesterday afternoon and this morning in online mode. It's a significant improvement. All transitions, initial load, traveling between map sections, portals, were fast, under 10 seconds each and every time. No rubber banding any town. This was me. This was me on Sunday, I guess, maybe Sunday or Monday. I'm glad to see I'm like not the only one. Game is super fun. Launch issues are always a shame. Hopefully they'll make it better. It's still 100% worth sticking around. It is still, regardless of that 1.0 like hiccup or whatever, absolutely still worth $35 in my opinion. I played offline, learning what class I wanted to main. Servers worked for me and loading good. Got 42 from 17 today. Glad they're working on it. He did some good leveling. Yeah, that's a good video. I 100% agree. It's in a good spot.